Alrighty, greetings and salutations everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff and welcome to our Thursday night live stream for week 12 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Hope you guys are all doing well after this interesting game between the Buffalo Bills taking on the Houston Texans, as the Houston Texans absolutely battered that offensive line of the Buffalo Bills and effectively Josh Allen. For 4 straight quarters, this young man was unfortunately just, goodness gracious, he was beat up to say the very least. Early on, a little bit of that left wrist and elbow injury, and then later in the game, other hits he was taking that honestly, it's just hard to watch after a while. You would think like, okay, maybe we need to run the ball a little bit more, and then the running game completely disappeared. Scoring the football, they didn't score a single point until late in that fourth quarter, which was a field goal in the second half. And I honestly, personally, I don't believe that you should be kicking a field goal when you're down 7 late in the game with 6 minutes remaining. I am not of the opinion. On 4th and 10 there, you've got to go for it. Either way. Anyway, let's talk about all things fantasy football going into week 12. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Again, over the course of the next hour, we're talking all things fantasy football related. So whether you guys send in a question via the live chat and or super chat in order to claim priority, all I ask is that, of course, you include your scoring format. Of course, there were some underwhelming performances. Luckily for the case of someone like Khalil Shakir, he at least found some semblance of success with 100 plus yards, 8 receptions, an incredible game. But guys like Nico Collins, Woody Marks, not finding any sort of success at all. James Cook luckily was able to have himself a solid game there, of course, early with a huge touchdown. But the likes of Josh Allen obviously not even having himself a day for fantasy purposes. Again, Thursday Night Football has subjected us, unfortunately, to the reality of which, in this circumstance, we've got a lot of really underwhelming performances. On a short week, it happens, but this case, it hurts that much more, especially when we're in must-win situations and scenarios over the course of this season. Okay, let's go ahead. I see Freddie says, why is Emmanuel Wilson so low in your rankings? As of today's Patreon rankings, the reason why I moved Emmanuel Wilson down is because Josh Jacobs practiced in a limited capacity. Because of the limited nature of his practice, and because I know Josh Jacobs' history of injuries and trying to play through them, I think there's a very good likelihood that he in fact plays this week, which I don't love. As a Josh Jacobs manager myself, I would actually prefer he holds himself out this week and we get him at a full healthy capacity from week 13 and beyond. But I think there's a likelihood in which we do have a reality where Josh Jacobs plays and Emmanuel Wilson is nothing but a handcuff once again, which again, I wouldn't say to drop Emmanuel Wilson at this point. If you got him on roster, you're holding and just waiting to see what occurs, in the case in which, of course, Emmanuel Wilson and his value is increased because Josh Jacobs, by tomorrow's practice, they feel that he is not prepared to potentially play and isn't healthy enough, then sure, we can roll him. But I just wanted to be cautious with my overall ranking just because of the information that was gathered earlier today. Okay, let's get into answering some of these questions. I appreciate you guys sending in these super chats, so let's go ahead and begin by answering them as such. Again, a quick reminder, make sure you include your scoring format. I know many of you are going to include your question within the live stream chat, so I appreciate that, and thank you for being patient. Okay, let's go ahead and let's begin with Eric, who says, hey, Andrew, thanks for the help. Questions in the chat. Very well, Eric. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Says, who would you start, Rice or Michael Wilson? Worried about Sauce Gardner covering Rice? I wouldn't be worried about Sauce Gardner covering Rice. The overall utilization of Rashee Rice and the overall deployment of him within this offense highly revolves around him getting utilization, in the slot receiving position. And additionally, on top of it, I mentioned it earlier this week, in regards to his overall kind of utilization thus far this, over the course of the last 4 games here as a Kansas City Chiefs this season, he has made, I would say, 78% of his receptions between the line of scrimmage and or whether it is even behind the line of scrimmage or between 0 to 10 yards down the field. So his average depth of target and his utilization within the slot position, having ran about 44% of his overall routes over the course of the last 4 weeks from the slot. Again, I wouldn't be worried too much about Sauce Gardner following him, as Kenny Moore is the primary nickel cornerback of that of that defense. And in my opinion, I'm rolling Rashee Rice in this circumstance. Yes, is Michael Wilson a fantastic play in the absence of one Marvin Harrison? Absolutely. But in this case, Rashee Rice has to play, in my opinion there, Eric. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next question. It comes in from Lamosity1226, who says, questions in the chat. Lamosity, thank you. Says, half PPR, I traded Justin Jefferson and ETN for Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay. I have Baker, Gibbs, Bucky, Genti, Tracy, JSN, Egbuka. Wandell Robinson, Watson, Jennings, and then Kittle as my tight end. Currently trying to get Burrow. Anything else I should do? Now, in regards to the potential of getting Burrow, if you can, I think it's very much so trending in the direction in which he most likely will end up playing this week, considering he has practiced as the first string quarterback for the last 2 days within this team. Very much so trending towards the return of Burrow for this week against the New England Patriots, then subsequently after on a short week against the Baltimore Ravens Thursday Night Football. So as it stands, in the event in which you can get Burrow, you should. As for the trade as a whole, if you're playing in a 2-2-1 league where you can start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex, I have no issue with this trade. In the event in which is a double flex format, maybe I'm a little bit less, I think I'd be a little bit more hesitant to make a move of this caliber. But again, assuming it's a 2-2-1 league, I have no problem with this trade. And I think you got a really solid roster going forward, especially once, in fact, Bucky Irving is healthy. Gibbs, Bucky, Jason, Ibuka with Kittle is an absolutely monster lineup to be putting forth every single week. Hence, as soon as we get to the fantasy playoffs, and especially even right now with the upcoming matchups they have ahead. Thank you. Flotation says, good evening, man. Check cord, 100%. Okay, thank you very much. I don't have my phone on me. I realized that as I started the intro music, and I could not get up to do it because, of course, as you would tell, there's like a green screen behind me, so I've already set myself up. I'm going to try to open up cord on my computer here. In the event in which my computer crashes, I'm blaming you, Flotation. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you. All right, let's see if I can find it real quick here. Okay, brother, let's see what you have here. It says, okay, so let's see here. So you, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm getting an idea as to what happened here. So, bit of a rough situation in your circumstance, because even though you did get 29 points out of the Houston Texans defense, you did only get 6 points out of Josh Allen, which is very much so worrisome. But let me read your question here as of right now going into the week. Okay, so it says, here's how it shook out tonight. At least the Texans defense got me 30. 6.9 from Allen. It's kind of wild, but couldn't find the answer out there. But I'm pretty much wondering if I should line up to going forward. Okay, my lineup going forward with Olave back. Should I have a winning shot? Singletary, Stevenson stay on my bench. I had to make the executive decision since I wanted to drop more. It paid off somewhat. Yeah, okay. So in regards to your overall situation here, looking at the roster that you're playing up against, who will be starting, it's a pretty good team across the board. When you have to take on Travion Henderson, McBride, Bijan, Javonte, Caleb Williams, Matthew Stafford in this given circumstance, you're going to have to really hope that the rest of your contributing factors, Olave, St. Brown, Higgins, Aaron Jones, Kyron, Olave, everybody needs to, they need to put forth their best game. Everyone's got to score a tutty. I think it's very much so possible, but yes, you got a very underwhelming week here from your defense/quarterback combination. Even with a combined duo of 37 points, it's still certainly not enough for me to feel comfortable on the situation. Am I leaving those players on your bench? Absolutely. I don't see myself playing them over what you currently have in your starting roster. I would leave it as such. Yeah, you're good to go there, brother. Obviously, I think you still have a chance, but it's going to be a definite tough matchup to say the very least there because, again, he's got some studs. 26 bands up. What's up, my man? Says, sup, Andrew? Questions in the chat. Thank you, 26. Appreciate it. Says, what do I do? It's a super flex, full PPR. It says, I started Woody over Kenneth Gainwell and Emmanuel Wilson. I have both Jacobs and Warren. Also, team I'm playing against started Nico. I have Ibuka in my flex. My team consists of JSN, Christian McCaffrey, Pickens, Ibuka. Okay, so in the event in which you have an opportunity to, as Josh Jacobs is active and playing this week, you're going to play Josh Jacobs. Otherwise, you pivot to playing Emmanuel Wilson. So that would basically be like Woody Marks and whichever Green Bay Packers RB would be your RB1 and 2. JSN and Pickens are pretty much at this point, assuming Christian McCaffrey. Okay, I don't know what kind of a league you play in. I know you're playing in a super flex, but I don't know if you have a double running back, double wide receiver, 1 flex or 2 flex format, or if it's triple wide receiver. Without more context, it's a little bit more difficult for me to outright say like which way you're going. But under the assumption that Woody Marks is playing as an RB and you're going to put Christian McCaffrey next to him, then you're probably going to end up starting like JSN and Ibuka as your wide receiver 1 and 2, to which then it's either Pickens or Jacobs in your flex. If Jacobs is available, he's in my lineup this week. And if it's a double flex, then obviously you roll with Pickens alongside of him. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Daniel Barnes, 926 sends in a question. Daniel, thank you very much. I appreciate it, my man. Daniel says the following. Says, why do we rank Dart so high, fourth in your rankings? Yeah, I think it's just rushing upside. That's purely what it is. I think the garbage time availability, which we can potentially see this week for Jackson Dart against this Detroit Lions defense, is what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that Jackson Dart specifically isn't going to bail on his rushing, even though I am afraid of him doing so because of the concussion protocol from this most recent week. But in the event in which Jackson Dart does not bail on the running, and he continues to do what he normally does, what he has produced in fantasy has been far too good to ignore in terms of a 4-point per passing touchdown format. I mean, just on a purely weekly basis, having scored 26, we're talking about 23 plus fantasy points in 4 of the last 5 games for Jackson Dart. And this is against legitimately elite defenses in Philadelphia, Denver. Chicago forces a bunch of turnovers from quarterbacks. Like, these are great teams that, again, he has played well against every single outing. So that's why I have him as high as I do. I know earlier today I did not include my quarterback rankings within my tight end and quarterback video. It was just a tight end video as of today. So for those of you who are wondering, the rankings, again, that was primarily from Patreon. Otherwise, you could probably see those quarterback rankings when we get closer to Sunday mornings, live stream 7 to 10 a.m. PST. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Louis sends in a question. Says, in a half PPR rest season, Kenneth Walker versus run, or I'm assuming that's RJ Harvey, would be my RB3. Okay, so in regards to the two of these options, rest of season, I think it becomes a real question as to, between the two of them, what is the likelihood in which Dobbins does return? Because considering, okay, they're going on bye, and Dobbins didn't play last week, there is a chance in which Dobbins could return week 16 against Jacksonville, but considering the nature of the injury in which it took place, I'd assume that he may not even return for that Jacksonville game. So if we're talking about rest of season, weeks 13, 14, 15, 16, up until then, I would probably prefer, as of right now, to have RJ Harvey as my starting running back, in comparison to K9, who I'm still worried about whether or not he is going to get weekly touchdowns or whether Charbonnet is going to yoink them on a weekly basis. Thank you. Kaiser sends it a question, says, congrats on surviving another rotation. Questions in the chat. Thank you very much, Kaiser. Appreciate it. Says, I'm 5-6 in a 10-team full PPR. We have Mahomes, Tracy, Javonte, Judkins, ETN, Sutton, T. Higgins, Ricky Pearsall, BTJ, CD, Pickens, Pitts. Would you trade CeeDee Lamb for Kyron and Ladd McConkey or Kyron and Kittle? Who's your tight end right now? Let me see here. It says Tracy, Javonte, Judkins, ETN, Sutton. Pickens. Yeah. So if I was in your position, I'd be very much so comfortable making the trade for Kyron and Kittle. Because again, ultimately, your wide receiver core as it stands, in my opinion, just rolling with the potential of Pickens and Higgins every week, I'm comfortable doing so, personally. To which I do believe if we're playing in a circumstance of a 2-2-2 league with one tight end here, your running backs would end up being, for rest of season, Javonte Williams and Kyron Williams. And then obviously your wide receivers would end up being George Pickens and T. Higgins with a potentially returning Joe Burrow. And then we would be in a position to which we would have Kittle at tight end. And then within the flex position, genuinely at this point, it's just a matter of like ETN, who's been 14 plus points per game each of the last 3 games here. And then just rolling like the next best option based on a upcoming schedule, whether it is technically a Judkins, a Tracy, a Ricky, a BTJ, etc. Personally, I think that is probably the move. Even though I really do like what CeeDee Lamb provides in terms of the depth play, in terms of the expansion of fantasy point contributions you will get with Kyron and Kittle in the lineup, I prefer that as the rest of season approach. With a 5-6 record, I'd be a little bit worried taking in Ladd McConkey if it wasn't going to help me win this week. I think it put me in jeopardy. I know that Kittle has an upcoming bye, but you'll have Pitts to be able to suffice for that. So I think the Kyron and Kittle play is the way that I would go about it, especially with the way in which Kyron and Kittle continue to score touchdowns on a weekly basis. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Court sends in a question. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It says, thoughts on DK Metcalf? I have Robinson from the Giants and now Singletary, who showed up flex-wise. It depends on scoring format ultimately. I think if you're playing in a full PPR and Jackson Dart is going to start, I would lean in the direction of playing Wan'Dale Robinson, primarily because he's been averaging about 11 targets per game in the last 2 weeks with Jackson Dart under center. Comparatively, DK Metcalf has a very advantageous matchup against the Chicago Bears secondary, who have given a boatload of points to opposing quarterbacks that can at least function. Of course, excluding this most recent week in which J.J. McCarthy could not function. But in the case in which you were deciding between the two of them, If it's a full PPR, I would lean in the direction of playing Wanda Robinson. If it is potentially a half PPR or standard, I think it would be a little bit of a better situation because Aaron Rodgers did end up practicing today. I'd feel pretty comfortable rolling with DK Metcalf in that circumstance. Thank you, Court. Appreciate it. Nathan Gutierrez sends in a question. Says, hey, Andrew, I'm 4-7. My running backs are Henry Hunt, Stevenson, Hubbard. Wide receivers are Rashee Rice, Drake London, Mooney, Myers, Lockett. Gadsden, Freiermuth are my tight ends. Quarterback is Mahomes, Brissett. Don't be mad, but I traded Henry for Williams and Jones. What do you think? I think it's necessary. I think you should also be trading away Drake London, and I also think you should be trading away Gadsden. Like, the fact of the matter is you need depth right now. At a 4-7 current record, the likelihood in which you're not able to, in the event in which you're not able to genuinely pick up a win this week, I think it's over at that point. I think there is a possibility in which you could make the playoffs at 6-8 if you play in a league where everyone's tied up at 4-7 right now, and there's like 3 Omega teams at the top of the convo. But outside of that kind of a circumstance, I think I would be probably in the position to which I'm okay with this kind of a trade and probably looking to move Drake London and again Gadsden in order to bring back a better tight end and at least some sort of contributing wide receiver within the given week. Obviously, it's very much so dependent on who in your league is capable of taking players in like Gadsden and London when they're not playing this week, but ultimately, I think it's worth it. More than anything, I would say a tight end is necessary because at least Mooney can kind of fill in for Drake London, fingers crossed, assuming, again, he can be of some sort of value. But in the case in which you are going into a 2 RB, 1 flex situation, you're going to play Aaron Jones. You're probably going to end up playing Kareem Hunt this week, to which then you'd play Rashee Rice and Jameson Williams as your 2 wide receivers, most likely throwing Mooney into the flex, but will certainly still need a tight end. Thank you, Nathan. All right, let's see here. National Champ Rush sends in a question. National, thank you very much. Says, who would you start out of these players? I need 2 wide receivers in a flex and a half PPR scoring from now. We've got Mooney, we've got Judy, we've got Godwin, Myers, Trey Benson, White, or Tucker if Bucky Irving doesn't go. In the event in which we do have a possibility in which Bucky Irving does not play, I would probably feel most comfortable in the direction of, again, this is under the assumption that Bucky Irving is a no-go. Your flex would be Sean Tucker, and your starting wide receivers would then be Mooney and probably Judy. Now, in the event in which Bucky Irving is active, then it becomes a matter of, yes, I'm still going to play Mooney and Judy at wide receiver, but then at that point, in a full PPR, I might feel comfortable enough going Jacoby Myers in the event in which BTJ is out. I could feel comfortable going in the direction of Trey Benson, assuming he was active this week. And I could also feel comfortable going with Godwin there. Very much so dependent on their health situation. So if I had to choose a preference between the bunch, as of this week, if Benson ended up being active and Bucky was playing, to which Tucker becomes a lesser option, I don't mind going Benson there over like the alternative options in a half PPR there in the flex, still rolling Mooney and Judy a wide receiver. In the event in which Benson's out, at that point, I'd probably just roll with rolling Godwin this week, assuming he can get a full participation tomorrow. Otherwise, then it's just Myers. Thank you. Again, very much so a contingent situation on a lot of their health situations there. Thank you. Thanks for all the help, brother. You're the man. Pick 2 in a full PPR. Genty. I have Bowers 2, Swift, and Aaron Jones. Yeah, look, as of right now, of your available options, I do believe that Genty and Aaron Jones are your 2 most formidable plays within the given week. I think that Genty's overall opportunity share this most recent game is probably going to be a very rare instance, to which going into this week, Pete Carroll, just like in the most recent week before with Brock Bowers only getting 1 reception against the Broncos, I'm sure he's going to make it a very much so kind of understood game plan to where they're going to run the ball heavily. And they're going to probably do so with giving Genty a lot of touches in a game in which it should be a closer scoring contest against Shadur Sanders in the Browns. So as of now, Genty and Aaron Jones, I believe, are your 2 best plays going into the given week. Julian Figueroa sends in a question. Says, "Sup, Andrew? Start Diggs or Michael Wilson?" Personally, I like Michael Wilson. I think both of them are fantastic plays, but the opportunity share that we would assume that Michael Wilson could be exposed to within the upcoming week is such a favorable matchup that I would love to play him within the upcoming contest, given the opportunity. So between the 2 of them, I understand Diggs has proven consistency week over week. So if you wanted to play him, you could, but right now I currently have Michael Wilson projected more. The reality of the situation is I just purely have Michael Wilson projected for a significantly higher target volume. And because of the target volume being higher, like I've mentioned before, when it comes to projections, it's purely a matter of the more opportunity you're exposed to, the greater chance you have of scoring fantasy points. So when I go out and I put out my projections, because I assume he's going to get a greater target volume, it then leads to him potentially getting a greater fantasy point contribution, to which why I land on Michael Wilson there this week, especially with, of course, the offense throwing the ball as much as they have lately. Thank you. We continue on with a question from EA, who says, should I trade Zay Flowers or ETN for Marvin Harrison? I don't love Marvin Harrison's fantasy playoff schedule. Genuinely, the matchups ahead are such a disadvantageous position for Cardinals wide receivers that I would say that, Trey McBride is probably going to be the only absolutely viable option in that fantasy playoff stretch. Again, when you're taking on the Houston Texans in week 15, the first week of the fantasy playoffs, Marvin Harrison's going to have to see Stingley and Lassiter, which is not going to be a fun experience. And then also in week 17 championship weekend, they'll have Cincinnati against DJ Turner, which is one of the better cornerbacks in the league. And the reason why the Cincinnati Bengals are one of the best teams in terms of stopping opposing wide receivers thus far this season. But again, they could play well against Atlanta. AJ Terrell isn't a schmuck either, though. So ultimately, if I had an opportunity of moving either of these two to get Marvin Harrison, I wouldn't. I would keep what you have, EA. Thank you. Cash Money 9709 says, second place, 7-4, was offered Chase and JMO for Amon-Ra. Thoughts? I would take Chase and JMO. Assuming both of these players are going to start for you, I think this is by far and away an absolute smash deal because of the circumstance in which you have Jamar Chase, who, yes, is not going to play this week, but henceforth from week 13 and beyond, you'll have Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. We know what that's capable of. We saw it all of last season. And then when we talk about Jameson Williams, I've mentioned it before and I'll continue to reiterate, over the course of the last 3 weeks, specifically post-bye week, there has been a concerted effort to get Jameson Williams the ball. And especially in the last 2 games in which we have specifically seen Dan Campbell take over the play calling, there has been far more highlights for Jameson Williams, who now has an opportunity of getting an even greater opportunity share with Sam Laporta on the injured reserve. So with everything trending the way it is, JMO Chase is an auto take there for Amon-Ra. Chris Moraga sends out a question. Chris, thank you very much. Says, I'm in a half PPR. I need an RB2 between Kamara and Sean Tucker. Yeah, I think it's purely just a matter of who's available. If, in fact, we're in a situation in which Bucky Irving is playing this week, then you play Kamara. In the event in which Bucky Irving has another week off, you play Sean Tucker because I would assume he gets the bulk majority, if not all the touches in the backfield, and as they will ignore Rachaad White. Says, I need upside. Already started Allen and Nico. Okay, yeah, as of right now, still very much so contingent on who is available in regards to the Bucky Irving situation. As for your second question, PPR, RB, and flex between Jacobs, ETN, Monangai, Tootin, and Mooney. Of these available, again, this very much so under the assumption that Josh Jacobs plays, he would start alongside of ETN. In the event in which Josh Jacobs does not play, alongside of him in a full PPR capacity, I'm probably just end up rolling Mooney as my flex and ETN as my starter. I know that ETN did not practice, and there's a chance in which, again, something pops up which could force him to be out, but luckily you do have Tootin just in case. Thank you, Chris. Chief sends in a question, says, in a one quarterback format, I just realized someone dropped Burrow weeks ago. Do I drop one of these quarterbacks to pick up Burrow? JD5, Dimes, and Dart. I would be very comfortable moving JD5 off my roster. I think there is a higher likelihood in which JD5 gets shut down for the remainder of the season, just purely based on the volume of injuries that he has sustained. But if you were looking towards like who technically has the most value rest of season, I would say it's either Jackson, Dart, or Burrow in my mind who have the greatest value points going forward. So if you want, and you're not going to be starting Daniel Dimes in the upcoming games, then you can pivot off of him and pick up Burrow. But I think JD5, because again, the elbow dislocation, the way in which that team is trending towards, easily not being in playoff contention, and the volume of injuries that JD5 has sustained this season and the amount of time he's already missed, I just don't know if it would be worth it for the organization to bring him back with the offensive line the way it is as it stands. Thank you. Blake sends in a question. Thank you very much, Blake. I appreciate it. It says, I have Gadsden as my backup too. All right, let's see what your overall context was. Hey, Andrew, in a full PPR, do I trade Henderson and McBride for Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Emmanuel Wilson? I'm 8-3, and for rest of season, and for rest of my team is Hurts, Sutton, Johnston, Saquon, Hampton, and Vidal. Do I trade Henderson and McBride for Devontae Adams and Jacobs? So basically, this Emmanuel Wilson factor is irrelevant. It's just pretty much a 2 for 2. To which, as of right now, in a full PPR league, in a double wide receiver, double running back, one tight end, one flex format, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think the value at which Henderson puts forth rest of the season is almost comparable to Josh Jacobs. The upcoming schedule ahead for Henderson, I understand you're 8-3, so you're already going to make the playoffs. So you're pretty much just looking towards like fantasy playoff expansion of utilization. Week 15, they get Buffalo. They're going to run through that defense, hot knife through butter, easily. To which then you get a tough matchup against Baltimore, week 16. Understandable, but still very much so relevant because of the full PPR capacity. And then they get the New York Jets in week 17, in which they should also run through them, hot knife through butter. I think Henderson's overall utilization in those games obviously is very much so going to be dependent on how much of an expansion of usage we're going to see from Ramondre Stevenson. But I truly do believe that Henderson has done enough in the last couple weeks to justify that he is going to be the guy going forward. And again, if this injury that Ramondre has been dealing with is going to make him a lesser version of himself, just in the same way in which we did have effectively Chuba Hubbard return from his calf injury and not be the same, and then losing the job outright to Rico Dowdle, in which the organization realized, yeah, we got to give it to the hot hand. That's what's going to happen with Hendo. So even if I believe Josh Jacobs is slightly better than Henderson, the separation between McBride and Adams is so significant that I would rather keep McBride and Hendo going forward. Just looking at it as a whole, I think those are the better options for you rest of the season. And I understand that you have Gadsden as your backup, but I feel like I would rather just go and push to move Gadsden and bring in somebody else. Or if I'm going to move McBride, I'd just rather move McBride 1-for-1 and go get one of the top receivers in the game. Give me Puka Nacua. Give me Jamar Chase. Because that's the value at which we're getting. In a full PPR, just effectively off of recent production, McBride has been unstoppable, and I don't see it slowing down. Again, 27 plus points for 3 of the last 4 games. I can't trade it. Can't do it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on, we had a question that came in from, after Blake, it was a question from Spencer James. Spencer, thank you very much. I appreciate it, my man. Spencer says the following. Says, in a 12-team full PPR league, I'm 6-5. My quarterback's Dak Herbert. Okay, so we've looked at this team before. I'm sure we've looked at this. So in regards to the overall potential of this roster, what is your initial question? It says, make trades before the deadline or keep Lions or Falcons defense. I would prefer the Falcons defense. Sorry, the Lions defense this week. Excuse me. Trade CD for Brees and Diggs. I mean, again, we could, but am I really too interested in that? Let's see. We have JT, Bucky, excuse me, Sean Tucker, Chris Rodriguez, Benson. We have CeeDee Lamb. We have Rice. We have Quentin Johnston, Pierce, Parker Washington, Warren. Am I making that trade? I don't think it's necessary, because ultimately in your circumstance, like, I'm going to play JT Bucky every week, and I would like to play CeeDee Lamb and Rice as my wide receivers every week, then figure out my flex from that point on. Do I need to take the downgraded wide receiver in order to have Brees as an option? You could go in that direction. I don't like the upcoming schedule for Brees Hall, genuinely, to the point to where, like, I think in the fantasy playoffs, yes, Brees Hall could be of value with the schedule he has. But man, I don't feel the most comfort until then. Like, I'm okay with him taking on Jacksonville week 15 and New Orleans week 16, but ultimately, like, New England week 17, Baltimore this week, I don't know if it's the best move in this circumstance. Also says trade Benson for Michael Wilson, or just flex Pierce this week in a tough matchup. If Bucky is back, do I play Bucky? Okay, so this is my thought process. In the event in which we have, if Bucky is out, you play Sean Tucker this week, so you have the handcuff there. In regards to bringing in Michael Wilson for Trey Benson, you could end up making that move just to try to solidify yourself with a victory. But otherwise, if I'm in your position, I'm just going to flex Pierce. I think that's the way that I'd go about this, and just keep it rolling that way. If you wanted to, you could make this trade, because I think it's an automatic victory for where Wilson is going to be able to help you capture a win this week. But obviously, it just makes you a little bit of a weaker team for rest of season purposes once Benson's back and Wilson diminishes his role with the return of Marvin. So it's just a matter of, like, if you do think that this week is a must win, then you make the trade. Otherwise, keep it as is. Thank you. All right, Chief Perp sends in a question. Says trade my Judkins for Kelsey and Swift. Yeah, absolutely. It's not even close. Kelsey and Swift for one player is not even remotely close. My tight ends are Kincaid and Fannin. My running backs are Christian McCaffrey, ETN, Judkins, Vidal. Yeah, I would take Swift and Kelsey, and it's not close. Kelsey's production of late has absolutely blown Judkins out the water. Swift has blown him out the water effectively as well, so that's just an automatic take there. Magnum sends in a question. Says, see question in the chat. I'm 9-2, playoffs clinched in a 10-team PPR. Purdy, Henry, Bijan, Abuka, Adunze, Kittle, Dowdle. Flexes at the flex, okay? Patriots, Loop. We have bench of Daniels, Fairbairn, Pearsall, Sutton, Walker, Tyler Warren, Buccaneers defense, Benson on my IR. You told me to trade for a wide receiver 1, Kittle for Waddle, question mark. Am I trading away Kittle for Waddle? No, look, here's the thing. You already technically have a wide receiver 1, okay? So my suggestion to you was you should try to go and take advantage of teams in your league that have the unfortunate reality of not having to be able to play Waddle this week because, oh my God, I have to win this week, but I don't have Waddle because he's on bye. Therefore, I would try to sell Waddle. This is the thought process of them. Oh, I got to sell Waddle in order to bring back some value to help me win. Moving Kittle, who I believe is just as valuable, if not more valuable rest of the season than Waddle, for Waddle in this case is actually counterproductive because I do believe that what you have on roster is equivalent, if not better than Waddle in terms of production, to which, as of right now, I think losing Kittle in this circumstance to have no backup tight end behind him, I mean, you do have Tyler Warren. Shoot, if I was you, I'd just move Tyler Warren for Waddle. I'm not moving Kittle, though. I just saw Warren here, yeah. If in the case in which you can move Tyler Warren for Waddle, that's the move you make. You don't move Kittle because I truly do believe that Kittle is the better option touchdown-wise for rest of season because of the Purdy, matchups ahead. Thank you. So, yeah, Warren. Appreciate it. We move on to a question that coming from Ray Barrera. Ray, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate it. It says, dropping Flacco, I have Caleb Williams. For rest of season, which quarterback 2 would you get off of the waivers? Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Cousins, or Shuck? In a full PPR flex, Kamara or Michael Wilson? In a full PPR flex, I'm playing Michael Wilson. Now, in regards to the overall circumstance of your backup quarterback for rest of season, again, I think it's just a matter of like what matchups for Caleb Williams are we trying to avoid? And then subsequently after we decide that, which weeks are those to which we can then kind of identify which quarterback we should be going after based on their individual matchup. So as it stands, if you're going to be dropping Flacco and you'll have Caleb Williams next week on Friday night, Black Friday game against the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm not so confident in that game. So I immediately think to myself, well, okay, so who am I going to potentially play next Friday, week 13? Let's see here, NFL week 13. Let's see what the schedule potentially holds for someone like a Trevor Lawrence in this circumstance. As of right now, looking at it, they take on the Titans. I would love to play Trevor Lawrence there against the Titans. Bryce Young in that circumstance, I would be taking on the LA Rams. Not as interested in that. Kirk Cousins, I could never start again. And Tyler Shuck against the Dolphins could be decent, but no. I would take Trevor Lawrence there. That would be the play for rest of season purposes as it currently stands, and especially for the case of where if you're trying to avoid matchups with Caleb, especially against the Eagles soon, might be the play. Thank you. Brian Luna sends it a question. Says, I traded T. Higgins, Genty, Henderson for Lamar and Gibbs. Is that a W? Is that a W? I think it depends on the full context of your roster. Says some droppable players were in that trade, but my wide receivers are Puka, BTJ, and Nico. So basically, your wide receivers are Puka and Nico because BTJ is not really a wide receiver for you. So if you're going to start Puka and Nico as your wide receiver 1 and 2 rest of season, my only question becomes like, who is the running back that is sitting alongside of Gibbs to which you can justify moving Genty and Henderson off roster? Because I really do believe that Henderson rest of season is a top 8 running back. To which if you're giving away Henderson and Genty, you better have like Christian McCaffrey sitting next to Gibbs for rest of season here. Otherwise, I'd be pretty intrigued to see what's going on at that RB2 spot. Thank you. Johnny Kilroy sends it a question. Johnny, thank you. Says, in a full PPR double flex format, I'm thinking of starting Diggs and Jalen Warren and benching Jefferson. Lineup would be Rice, Abuka, CMC, Jacobs, McBride, Diggs, and Warren. Thoughts? Yeah, under the assumption that we have, first and foremost, Jacobs healthy, and he's playing, then again, you would leave him there. In the event in which he doesn't play, then you'd move Jalen Warren over Jacobs if you don't have Emmanuel Wilson, and then JJ would play in your other flex spot. But as it stands currently, I mean, I don't mind the idea of if Jaylen Warren can get a full participation of practice by tomorrow, I don't mind the potential of sitting Justin Jefferson there. Would I personally feel comfortable doing so in the case of playing him over Jaylen Warren? As of this moment, no, unless I got a full designation of practice and a guarantee that he would be playing at a full capacity on Sunday against the Bears. Otherwise, if it's like limited tomorrow again, I'm playing Rice there over Warren. Genuinely. Thank you. Moving on to Blazin 540, who says, thoughts on Bucky rumors that Florio and Barber are saying that he will miss remainder of season. Brother, that is an interesting one that I have not heard yet. Let me go ahead and look that up. Is that Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk? Let me just see if I can find that specific report. Let's see here. That's a very interesting convo. Let's see. So it says Bucky Irving limited again. Practiced on a limited basis Thursday. He has been listed as limited for 5 consecutive practices. On Thursday, offensive coordinator Grizzard told Scott Smith of the Buccaneers official site that it'll be quote-unquote unfair to immediately ask them to play 50 snaps, and the team will figure out how much they can handle as it goes. Such comments would seem to imply Irving won't handle a full workload once he's cleared to play again, and Friday's injury report will reveal if he has a chance to return on Sunday against the Rams. So just based on those quotes alone, I mean, again, maybe there is some insider information. Florio is obviously a little bit more of a, in the reporting game than myself, so I would potentially look at the information and, obviously take it at what it is right now as a rumor. But based on the way that the offensive coordinator is talking about in terms of, it's unfair to potentially ask Bucky Irving to play 50 snaps on his first week back, leads me to believe that they are pretty much like, as an offensive coordinator, he's already going over the game plan as to how much he wants to deploy Bucky in the coming week, assuming he's ready, which again, I'm thinking those comments insinuate that he's probably going to play. So we'll see. But I mean, if he's out for the season, man, that would be, whew. All right. Joanne Bravo says, full PPR, start to Emeka Egbuka, Tedero McMillan, Michael Wilson. Genuinely, I like all three. And honestly, if you wanted to play any of the three, if you wanted to play 2 of any of the 3, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But as it ends right now, I would take Emeka Egbuka against the Rams, and I'll take Tedero McMillan against the number 1 wide receiver matchup. Thank you. We had a question that came in from Tim. Tim, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tim Schwartz says, thoughts on Bowers? Should I trade up for another tight end or hold? Who would you get? I mean, again, the only tight ends that I truly do believe rest of season are maybe better than Bowers, McBride, Kittle, and Warren. That's it. I don't think there's another tight end that is technically better than Bowers for rest of season purposes. So in the event in which you can trade up for one of them, sure, go for it. But in the case of where you're trading for like Warren, I think that's a 1-for-1. I think that's just a let's flip the coin and let's go for it. In the terms of trading for Kittle, yes, maybe you need to throw an extra sprinkle on top of Bowers. But in the case of McBride, I think it's too out of your reach unless you have some sort of incredible depth across the board to which somehow you could take advantage of the team that has McBride in your league. Thank you. Tony Lopez says, sup, Drew? I got 2 offers. Okay, Tony, let's see what you have here, brother. For my Adams and ETN, do I either trade them for Abuka, Bucky, or Diggs / Derrick Henry? Wow. Okay, I like these potential trades here, to be honest. It says, or do I keep? Also, in the Superflex full PPR, I traded away Devontae, Goddard, Brissett for Kittle and Waddle. I honestly really like that, brother. That's a fantastic one. It says, then I replaced Brissett with Mariota. Okay, so here's my issue that I have. If Jaden Daniels returns, who's playing quarterback for you? Like, who's playing quarterback for you anyway? With no Jacoby Brissett, I'm very curious who your quarterback is. Hopefully you have someone. Hopefully it's like Jackson Dart or something, so that which you're fine. But in regards to the potential of the rest of the season, yeah, I like Kittle and Waddle there over, Goddard and Devontae Smith. I think that's a huge haul. In a super flex, obviously losing Brissett is very much so important, and I'm hoping that you have Mariota and Jaden Daniels on roster, and you at least maybe have another 2 quarterbacks there to which you can then, not only be able to, function this week, but also in the event in which you have some wonkiness between Jaden Daniels and Mariota. You have the availability of some pivots. But in regards to the overall trade here of Adams and ETN and pivoting them off for potential options of Diggs, Henry, or Ibuka and Bucky. Okay, so here's my immediate thoughts. Under the assumption that Bucky Irving is healthy for the remainder of the season, this is the duo that I would prefer to have. I would rather have Ibuka and Bucky over Adams and Etienne. Now, am I feeling so comfortable as to say the exact same thing about Diggs and Henry? I would probably venture to say I think this is a balanced trade. Diggs and Henry for Adams and Etienne I think is almost 1-for-1 balanced, to which then at that point, yeah, I'm comfortable making that trade. The only issue is Diggs has an upcoming bye, which makes me feel a little bit less excited about it. So if it was me, and you're okay with the idea of buying Bucky and him potentially missing this week, or maybe more time, is not an issue, then you make the trade for the Ibuka Bucky side. Otherwise, if this bye week's an issue, you keep. If it's not an issue, I think it's like a 50-50 coin, to where I'm pretty much asking myself, am I making the playoffs? If the answer is yes, and I'm not getting a first round bye, I make the trade because I want to play Derrick Henry against Cincinnati week 15, as Derrick Henry probably goes for 250 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's how excited I am about Henry in that matchup. Thank you. Benzo sends in a question. Says Gadsden / Aaron? Aaron Jones. I was like, Aaron. I thought it was A-Rod for a second. Anyway, Gadsden and Aaron Jones for Judkins. Backs are Swift and Tracy. I would rather have Gadsden and Aaron Jones rest of the season, genuinely. I don't know what the enticing nature of Judkins is in terms of rest of the season. I look at their upcoming schedule and I'm not the most excited about it. I think I look at some of these games, especially in the fantasy playoffs, taking on Chicago, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh, and genuinely, I don't like any of those matchups for them. So sure, they take on Buffalo, but when they're down 47-0, what is there going to be? You know, it's just at that point, I'm not interested. So I would probably just keep the Gadsden and Aaron Jones combo there, Benzo. Thank you. Mikey sends in a question. Says in a full PPR, Jameson Williams or Michael Wilson. I prefer Jameson Williams. Again, I mentioned a lot of the overall, kind of reasons as to why I feel so comfortable going with JMO there. Again, in the absence of a Sam Laporta, and effectively, again, the matchup against that Giants defense, it really is an advantageous position there. So as of now, yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the idea of going JMO this week, but both of them are obviously in my top 12. Thank you. All right, we had a question that came in from MRT Productions 10, who says full PPR. Oh yeah, we already took care of that one. Thank you very much, MRT. All righty, continuing on, we had a question from Uno, who says, hey Andrew, so who should I flex in a full PPR? Theo Johnson, Montgomery, or Dobbs? Also start Lamar over Dart always, right? Yes, I would play Lamar over Dart always. I have to. Unless he's injured, I'm playing him. Theo Johnson, Montgomery, or Dobbs. I think if Jackson Dart is starting in a full PPR, I play Theo Johnson. Otherwise, if there's no Jackson Dart somehow, some way, I roll Montgomery. Thank you. Moving on to the next question, comes in from Patrick Baker. Patrick says, in a 2-team full PPR, I'm number 1 in both leagues. Set my lineup. Details are in the chat. Okay, thank you very much, Patrick. Let me go ahead and let me pop up the chat here so I can have this available, because obviously it crashed just moments ago. Let's go ahead and let's throw it right here, and then we can expand that upon the screen so I know exactly what we're talking about in regards to your team. Actually, we got to do it that way. Perfect. Okay, so let's see what you have here, Patrick. All right, Patrick says, team number 1, we have Mahomes, Dart, Dowdle, Chase Brown, Genty, Bucky Irving, DeAndre Swift, JSN, Adams, Ibuka, Tyler Warren, and Theo Johnson. Okay, so looking at my rankings from earlier today, as of this moment, it's very much so going to be contingent on the health of Dart. If he's healthy, I'd legitimately play him this week for this team. Now, in regards to the other potential moving parts of this roster, by the way, I have Dart 1 spot ahead of Mahomes. So if you wanted to play Mahomes and you just wanted to be safe, that's fine. In regards to the other alternative options, I genuinely would play Chase Brown and Dowdle ahead of Genty and Bucky and Swift. So Dowdle and Chase Brown are going to be my RB1 and 2. Then I'm obviously going to play JSN and Devontae Adams as my wide receiver 1 and 2. I'm going to play Ibuka as my flex. I'm going to play Tyler Warren as my tight end. Then when we go into the conversation of team number 2, we have Mahomes, who's going to auto start there. You have Dowdle, Bijan Robinson, Kyron Williams. So Dowdle and, at this point, I think Bijan Robinson and Kyron Williams are the 1-2 combo. To which then I look at the wide receiver position. We've got AJ Brown Pants. Yep. Okay. You have Ibuka. You have Nakua. So basically, Ibuka and Nakua will be your wide receiver 1 and 2. And then it becomes a matter of like, am I playing Dowdle or am I going to play a Dunze? Which, man, Rome Dunze is up and down so often that I think the safety of Dowdle's production is just a little bit of it, in my mind, a little bit too safe not to just go with. So if you're playing in a full PPR and you're in a really tough situation where you think you're going to need a huge point load to kind of come back from, maybe a Dunze is the play there, considering how great he's played against man coverage. But for now, I think Dowdle ends up being your flex in that circumstance. And I'm playing, obviously, Kyle Pitts because you don't have any other tight ends. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Cash Money 9709 sends in a question. Cash Money, thank you very much. Says to add to my last super, still have Puka and JT projected to win by 10, even after Nico at the flex didn't do well. So I'm going to take Chase and JMO for Amon-Ra. Yeah, I mean, at this point, you should. You absolutely should take Chase and JMO for Amon-Ra, just out of pure principle. Like, genuinely. I think the volume of value which you're getting in return here, to which you could start Puka Nakua, Jamar Chase as your wide receiver 1 and 2, and JMO or Nico as your flex with JT. I mean, like, brother, that's just such an absolute steal of it. Like, I assume it's going to get vetoed. I'm going to be honest. But if you can get it, get it. Thank you. Alrighty, I appreciate you guys being patient with me. Of course, trying to get through all those super chats. I want to answer a couple questions here via the live chat for probably the next 5 to 10 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and close it out, and I'll be back tomorrow with Hidden Gems for Week 12. I do appreciate you guys. Of course, earlier today, I did post my tight end rankings for Week 12. If you guys haven't checked out that video, do me a favor, click the like button on that video. And again, continues to help support the channel. Of course, expand our way towards growing to 100,000 subscribers. I understand that it's very difficult to, of course, tell other members in your leagues about this channel. But again, if you guys could be a friend and tell a friend and help us get to that 100K mark, that'd be greatly appreciated for this season. In regards to some of these questions, Ravens or Raiders defense, I prefer the Ravens this week. Let's see here. There's a question from, I need 2 out of Judkins, Tracy, and Jaylen Warren. I didn't play Shakir. In the event in which you do have a league where, and you have Wilson as well. So I think it's just a matter of a couple factors. If in fact Josh Jacobs is out, you play Wilson, and you probably end up playing it alongside of Warren if Warren is healthy. Otherwise, you play Wilson and then Judkins. But then let's say, for example, Jacobs is out, or sorry, Jacobs is playing, then you can't play Wilson, then you play Judkins and Warren. But then in fact, of course, Jalen is not available, then you would go with Judkins and Tracy. See, there's a lot of contingencies there. Thank you. Upgrade at wide receiver or downgrade at RB. If your RB depth is what is it? If you got RB depth, then good deal. I think you're talking to somebody else, but it's all good. PPR, Wilson or Wilson? Okay, so you're asking, am I going to play Emmanuel Wilson or Michael Wilson, assuming Josh Jacobs is out? I would play Michael Wilson, genuinely. Now that we, look, here's the thing. Earlier this week, we didn't have the indication that Marvin Harrison was going to be designated out. And because of that, it purely provides the upside of value that Michael Wilson needs to be an auto start. All right, let's see here. J-Ma I says, full PPR, 12-team double flex format. Who should I drop out of Tootin, Hunt, and or Spears to pick up a kicker? I think in terms of the value which these players present, I think Spears presents the least volume of value. So that would be my drop there in terms of rest season purposes. Because I think Hunt can continue to maintain as a starter there. And if this Jaguars backfield is going to turn into a two-headed monster, I think there is some designated, like, kind of, you have to kind of put respect on the potential of Tootin gaining more workload if he plays well. And additionally, Travis Etienne limited each of the last 2 days of practice. So he's obviously dealing with a bit of a shoulder injury himself. It's Joseph Mai. Yeah, Joseph, I don't know why your name has changed, brother, but it changed for some reason. Yeah, I'm not sure. As you can see on my chat here, it doesn't say Joseph Mai, unfortunately. Maybe if I like see channel activity. Yeah, it changed your name for some reason. Maybe you changed it. I don't know what happened. I started Tootin over Benson this week. I'd also start Tootin over Benson this week. Absolutely. Even if Benson plays, I think at that point, if Tootin's a go, I'm going to roll with him against Arizona. All right, Tony Lopez says, Drew, I'm in a super flex full PPR. Squad is not looking good enough for the chip question mark. We have Allen, Mariota, Tua. Okay, the second QB I'm not really too excited about. I mean, the first QB I'm not too excited about today. But Adams, Waddle's great. ETN, Warren is solid. Kittle's fantastic at tight end. Any weaknesses I should address? Yeah, I mean, obviously your quarterback too needs to be addressed. I don't know if we can trust Mariota and Tua every single week henceforth. And in the event in which Jaden Daniels does come back, I think it really puts you in a tough bind. But I will say Tua's schedule for the fantasy playoffs is relatively advantageous, to which you could end up surviving with it. But I mean, if it was me, I'm looking to try to get out of that situation because I don't love the idea of having to play Tua. Even against Cincinnati and Tampa Bay in the fantasy playoffs, ultimately, that's your biggest weakness. It's QB2. Half PPR rank these three: Andre Yoshivas, Blake Corum, Jacoby Myers. I think it depends on a couple factors. In the event in which we have Joe Burrow playing, I play Yoshivas 1, Myers 2, Corum 3. In the event in which it's Flacco, I go Myers 1, Yoshivas 2, Corum 3. I have no interest in playing Corum against Tampa Bay. Brissett, Burrow, Caleb, Dart. Who starts? Dart. In the event in which he's active this week, he's my number 1. Then it's probably Burrow number 2, Brissett 3, and then Caleb 4. My name changed too, LOL. Yeah, I guess maybe YouTube pushed a new setting out in which they changed everybody's names. I don't know what the deal is, but hopefully I'm able to recognize the majority of your guys' names going forward. It says, yeah, I'm unsure too. I think it's showing the YouTube handles instead of the channel names. Got it. Jay McLaughlin says, better standard flex, Pearsall or Mark Andrews? It's Mark Andrews. Brissett or Williams? I prefer to play Jacoby Brissett. Rank half PP. Okay, we already took care of that. S-Box, what's up, man? Says pick 2 in the flex, Wilson, Monangai, Washington, or pick up Watson for free agency. Yes, I would play Wilson, assuming that's Michael, next to Watson this week. In the event in which you cannot, I mean, I would drop Washington for Watson at this point. That works for me. Brian says 10 team, Purdy or Stafford this week. Let me see where I have them ranked. I have Purdy a couple spots behind Stafford. So I'll take Stafford there. Thank you. Peace Dog says test. What are you testing, brother? What happened? What happened, brother? You good? QVerks, what's up? Says half PPR. I traded Metcalf for Tyler Warren. Not sure how you did it, but congratulations. I have Ibuka, T. Higgins, Adunze, and Gadsden as tight end. Did I do okay? I think you did incredible. I think at this point, you should probably be looking to trade Gadsden for rest of the season. If you can't, it's fine. But this trade, you scammed them out of Tyler Warren, who again is the number 3 tight end thus far this season and will continue to function in that top 5 capacity. Full PPR, flex, Alec Pierce, Judkins, Addison, Pearsall, Kamara, BTJ. I think I kind of want to play Kamara there, honestly. I think Kamara is the preferred play for me. I'd go with Kamara 1, Alec Pierce 2, Judkins 3, Pearsall 4, BTJ 5, Addison 6. Alex, what's up? Says, what defense should I pick up? Jaguars versus Cardinals or Patriots versus the Bengals? Purely dependent on whether or not Joe Burrow is playing. In the event in which Joe Burrow is playing, I would just pick up the Jaguars at that point. But honestly, I don't want to play either of these two defenses because of the implication of the quarterbacks they have to face, potentially lighting them up. S-Box says, I meant Emmanuel Wilson. Okay, let's see let me go back up here. So, flex Wilson, Monangai, Washington, or Watson. Okay, yeah. I would only play Wilson there, assuming Josh Jacobs is out. Otherwise, I think you would probably then play Watson and Monangai. Otherwise, I think it's Wilson and Watson. Thank you. Let's see here, Captain says, flex full PPR Booty, Monangai, Benson, or Tootin. Is Tootin, if healthy, right? Yes. In the event in which Tootin is healthy, I would play him against the Arizona Cardinals. Is Greg Dortch a better play than Yoshivas? I have Greg Dortch ranked higher, so I would say yes, but that's primarily under my current projection of Joe Flacco playing. So in the event in which we do have Yoshivas with Joe Burrow, I could justify it. I could. Let's see here. Trade AJB and Jones for Singletary and Rice, PPR win or loss. I feel like it just depends on who you are. It depends on what the rest of your team looks like, Michael, to be honest. Obviously, Singletary's never going to start for you. And Aaron Jones and AJB would assumably be starters. But bringing in Rashee Rice, my only question looks like what does the rest of your team look like around Rashee Rice? I have a context of your team from week 9, to which, again, I don't know if it's still as such, to which, again, as of right now, can't really make a full indication as to whether I like it. Full PPR, Dallas Goedert or Judkins. Man, Dallas has been really bad against opposing tight ends of late, but I think I'd probably stick with Judkins there. It says, what combo? Booty and Tootin LMFAO? Yeah, it is definitely a combo of sorts, isn't it? It's desperate times call for desperate measures. Start Daniel Jones or Burrow. Under the assumption that Burrow is starting this week, I'd probably end up rolling him this week. Do I start Burrow or Daniel Dimes? I go Burrow. Guys, genuinely, I am like, as soon as Burrow's active, I'm all in. Like, I have nothing to lose at that point. I'm just all in on the Burrow potential train. Mr. Nice Guy says, my sleeper defense this week is Las Vegas and New Orleans. Before you call me crazy, my sleepers last week were Miami and Dallas. Well, as of right now, Las Vegas, I don't actually mind as a defense. I have Las Vegas as my number 4 defense on the week. New Orleans, I have as my number 14. So technically, now that Houston's played, so if I pull Houston out, who I had in my top 12 defenses, if I move up New Orleans now, they're my number 13. Again, I don't think that your sleepers are bad ideas at all. And again, yeah, you were right. Dallas absolutely cooked last week. Lamar, JT, Bijan, Lamb, Jefferson, Rice. Yeah, you're fine. Brother, that trade's perfect. You're good to go. Kyle, what's up? Says, who would you rather have rest of season? Full PPR, Rico Dowdle or Chase Brown? Was offered Brown on a trade for Dowdle straight up and wanted to know which way you're leaning. As of this moment, in terms of rest of season purposes, I truly do believe that if we're going to get Burrow every game rest of season, Chase Brown is genuinely the better running back. I think it was established last season in a full PPR, and I think we'll continue to expand upon that for the remainder of the season with Burrow under center and the consistency of check down rate. The volume of receptions that we have seen Chase Brown be exposed to over the course of the last 2 games in a full PPR scoring format has made him incredibly viable, to which that's the level at which I thought Chase Brown was going to be at for the entirety of the season, because I thought Joe Burrow was not going to have a toe Burrow situation, right? The last 2 weeks of Chase Brown of scoring 19.2, 18.7, the week before 25.5. That's the level of Chase Brown I anticipated. And now that we have found that reality once again, that's what I'm expecting to see rest of the way in shootout games, as this defense can't stop a soul and their offense is throwing the ball 100 times a game. So at this point, I'm all in on the potential of Joe Burrow and Chase Brown there. Again, may I remind you guys that last season, at the back end of the year, when the defense for the Cincinnati Bengals could not stop a soul, Joe Burrow was throwing the ball at such an incredibly high rate. It was ridiculous. Look at this. The final, goodness gracious, the final games of the season, 56 passing attempts, 50 passing attempts, 38, 44, 37, 49, 46. The volume of passing attempts he is going to have is going to be very reminiscent of late last season, in which he was the number 1 quarterback in fantasy for a lot of that stretch outside of Lamar Jackson. So I'm all in on it. Johnny Kilroy, what's up? Says, if I can't trade Jefferson, am I in trouble? No, I can't. I wouldn't say that you're in trouble, because I really do like the schedule for Justin Jefferson. Look, here's the reality of the situation, guys. I think the overall Justin Jefferson situation would revolve around the following situation, or the following kind of contingency. In the event in which you're going to make the fantasy playoffs, and we can wait the next 3 weeks for JJ McCarthy's cement to finally kind of solidify and dry, would be at a far better position. Because I think in the fantasy playoffs, especially with the schedule which Jefferson and the boys are going to have available to them, I do think that is a better position to be in, taking on Dallas, the Giants, and Detroit. So we've already seen JJ McCarthy whoop Detroit's ass, and then Dallas and the New York Giants secondaries are nothing to be afraid of. So in terms of the potential of Justin Jefferson, if you're going to make the playoffs guaranteed, you keep him. And there's not a necessity to trade, because between now and then, JJ will learn and he will get better. And once he does, I think Justin Jefferson will be a far more valuable player in the future, rather than what the next couple games will provide in terms of taking on Green Bay this week and Seattle the week after. And then week 14 and beyond, Washington, Dallas, New York Giants, Detroit, it's as good as it gets. MTD, what's up? Says, will Hidden Gems be back again this week? It will be tomorrow. I didn't start Shakir because I thought the Texans defense, because of that Texans defense. I mean, you were right that the Texans defense was going to whoop ass. But, obviously Shakir going for 110 yards was kind of, it was beyond my projection, so I wouldn't have expected that. Even though I thought, earlier today in the better play that I made, 5 receptions was very much so in the realm. 8+ was not really in the conversation for myself mentally. Down to Tootin, Emmanuel Wilson, Watson, Tez Johnson. I need a little insight. Yeah, as of right now, I think it's a matter of just who's healthy. Like, ultimately, if Emmanuel Wilson has no Josh Jacobs out there, you're going to start him, because, again, how successful the running game of the Packers has been for the 2024 and 2025 seasons. But, of course, specifically since we have seen Matt LaFleur joined as the head coach and play caller, the running game has been incredible year over year over year. So Emmanuel Wilson will be the auto start. In the event in which Josh Jacobs toughs it out and plays, at that point, I would probably position myself to play Christian Watson. Then outside of that, in the event in which Godwin misses, maybe it's Tez Johnson. But in this circumstance, am I going to roll Tootin over these availables? Only in the event in which maybe if ETN logs another limited practice tomorrow. Alrighty, we're going to answer a couple more questions. I'm going to head out. J Patch sends in a question. Says I need some help. I have Hunt as my RB2 right now. Should I drop Rachaad White, Vidal, or Chuba for Tootin or Algier and start them over Hunt if Pacheco is in? Or start White if Bucky is out? So I'm not interested in starting Rachaad White. I would feel very comfortable picking up Bayshall Tootin right now and dropping Rachaad White. I'd also feel comfortable dropping Chuba Hubbard and picking up Algier, assuming you don't have Rico Dowdle. I think those two are better options in terms of rest of season purposes. Now, in regards to, am I going to pick up Tootin or Algier and play him over Hunt? No. I think Hunt has done enough over the course of the last 3 weeks here already to designate that when Pacheco comes back, Pacheco is the backup going forward. Thank you. I'm in a full PPR Parker, Washington, or Godwin for rest of season. My bench is just in case of injury, Buka, Pickens, and Lamb are my regular starters. In terms of rest of season, I would like to hope that Parker Washington retains a role with Travis Hunter out for the rest of the year. But until then, I think it's because of the lack of opportunity he has seen in Brenton Strange's return, I think I'd just go Godwin here for rest of the way. Out of Rashee Rice, Tedero McMillan, Devontae Adams, and Tez Johnson, what two wide receivers am I starting this week, brother? Out of those available options, I'm probably leaning towards the consistency of Rashee Rice and Devontae Adams as my number 1 and 2 combo. If I could play a third one, it would be Ted, but ultimately Rice and Adams have to play for me. Just traded away Kyron Olave BTJ for JSN. My trade partners needed to beat the playoff holder for me. Have a chance to make the playoff spot. Okay. You got to do what you got to do, brother. That's an interesting strategy. I've seen it been done before, but that's definitely a risky play. Flex Kenneth Walker or Aaron Jones. As of this moment, I think it's purely just a matter of who's going to score the touchdown between the two of them. And Kenneth Walker hasn't done it consistently enough for me to feel super confident on the matter. That's why I'm leaning towards Aaron Jones. What does it say? It's through me to ads, so I don't know if you went over it. It threw me, to the ads. Got it. Okay. As of right now, in terms of the potential of these two, I'm thinking to myself, based on where I have them ranked, in let's say, for example, is it a full PPR? It doesn't say. Doesn't matter. In regards to the two of them, at this moment, I could justify going one or the other. I feel like I want to personally play Kenneth Walker because I think against the Tennessee Titans, anything is possible and he could score 2 touchdowns. But maybe Aaron Jones is probably the more safe approach as of this week. But yeah, if it's me and it's my team, I probably just roll with Kenneth. 26 bands up says Mahomes or Lamar, full PPR standard. I would play Lamar. Thank you. Appreciate it. JK says PPR flex Pearsall, Kamara, Pierce, or Bucky. In a full PPR, I'm probably going to just play Kamara. In the event in which you could play a second option, it's Pierce. But only Pierce if Bucky's not available. Otherwise, it's Kamara number 1, Bucky 2, Pierce 3, Pearsall 4. Otherwise, it's Kamara 1, Pierce 2, Pearsall 3. Thank you. All right, guys, that's what we're going to call it. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. Again, like I've mentioned before, for those of you guys who are here, again, tomorrow we'll talk about hidden gems. I'll post that on the channel. I'll be back Saturday, probably around 11 a.m. PST, live streaming on the channel for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, talking about all things starter sits for week 12th, and then I'll be back Sunday morning for a 3-hour live stream between 7 to 10 a.m. PST. Again, if you guys want those Sunday morning rankings, send from my email directly to yours every single Sunday for the remainder of the season. Of course, you can check out Betr. Again, when you sign up today using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, and then make a first time play within a real cash play. You'll be eligible to get those rankings every single Sunday morning for the remainder of the season. So it's just a $10 and a first time play, and you have to be eligible within the map there. And of course, when you sign up, you get a free $10 from Betr themselves, so you can take advantage of that opportunity as well. Earlier today, we had a pretty solid play. 2 of the last 3 days, our plays have hit. Whether it was the Desmond Bain and of course Draymond Green play. Yesterday we had an NBA play. absolutely went awry. And then, of course, earlier today, Woody Marks and Khalil Shakir came into the clutch for a nice 3x play there. So if you guys are interested, check that out. Otherwise, of course, there's a Patreon that's available for those of you who are not interested in Betr, in which you can get the same exact rankings every Thursday and Sunday and effectively ask me any and all questions and get access to the Patreon exclusive Discord server and community. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cue the double helix. Again, back tomorrow with some hidden gems, and hopefully they won't stay hidden this weekend. I'll see you guys. Peace. Okay, so we have a rare ending here, okay? So I wanted to go ahead and stay for a couple more questions to see if there was anybody who stayed overtime after the intro rolled. I see a Hascom317 question. Says, hey, should I start Tootin, White, Knight, or Barkley in my 16-team super flex? I don't know how to play fantasy football. I only joined to drink with the bros. Now I'm 2-9. Well, I'm glad you found the channel. Hopefully next season you can swing on by earlier on, and hopefully my videos can lead you in the right direction. As of this week, you should be looking to probably play Barkley, obviously, and then next to him, assuming you have another available spot, it depends on a couple factors. Trey Benson, if he's active for the Cardinals, would make Knight not an ideal option. I think Rachaad White, not playable. So it's either between Knight and Tootin, to which we're pretty much positioning ourselves based on Trey Benson's health and status. Thank you. Any other questions? How are we feeling about Sean Tucker if Bucky is out again against the Rams defense? Again, the Rams defense is solid, but I mean, when we're talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, they're also incredibly solid themselves. So that in itself, something that we're interested in. Okay, guys, I don't see any other questions coming through, so we're going to call it there. Thank you very much. See you guys. Good night. Peace.